Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome to another Tuesday evening. I think this will be our last. We're going back on our regular Monday schedule, but we thank everyone for coming and visiting us here on We the People. As you can see, I got my new threads on here, a nice red one, and I'm going to blame my tardiness on Brother Masada and his wife. They brought me a pot of greens over here. I have greens and cornbread over here on my left. So, you know, hey, what can I say? Anyway, I see Brother Masada is here and Brother Derek. So, Brother Masada, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing really good. How are you doing? How's
I'm
everybody?
doing. I'm doing fine. As I said, I'm blaming this my tardiness on you. So, hey,
Hey, it's a good thing though. Hopefully we can get Brother Derek into some of this over here. I can't wait till you come out here, Brother Derek. Can't wait till we all bond more. What we're doing now though, I appreciate everyone. So thank everybody for being here.
Yeah, and you're never late, Brother James. I was wondering. I said, maybe this is the 17th of March I'm supposed to be. You
no,
like clockwork, brother. You like Father Time.
no. I was actually working on a venue
I
for.
saw that email. I saw that email. You're
Yeah.
always working on something.
Well, hey, we got one plot already, and
I
and
see that. That's
we're,
beautiful.
we're moving on. Tuesday, actually Thursday, we're going to look at another down in National City and see if we can get another plot going. So, you know, we're working for you, brother Derek. We're working,
Yeah, I know you're doing that thing, brother.
you know. So we got a visit this week by Ice Barbie herself, and
Of
and
course, of course.
and it kind of brings me to I'm looking at the cities that are particularly affected, and one of the reasons why I keep referring back to Minneapolis is because their politics is very similar to ours out here in San Diego. Um, we have, of course, Governor Newsom. Uh, that is more than likely going to throw his hat in the ring uh, come this next presidential election because he can't run out here anymore. He's finished his terms out here. So, and we also have a mayor that's under siege, Gloria, much like Fry in Minneapolis, and much like Tim Walz in Minnesota. So, Brother Derek, from the political standpoint here, is this really about the party or is it about the performance?
You have a way of stating things, brother, that is, you know, let me draw this contrast for you. So out here, you know, since our our state, she's not the attorney general, Fonnie Willis, our prosecutor ran into some personal situations with the prosecutor that she hired, her lead prosecutor. So we didn't get to take him to court. You know, we booked him. We fingerprinted him. We took his mugshot, which he wore as a badge of courage. But remember, he's the one that said, "I just need."
Makes me feel like one of us, right?
Yeah, he just said, "I just need however many votes it was." Remember, he came and specifically tampered with the election down here, but because she had some complications, and we didn't get to try him. And so you guys heard, I'm sure, that about 2 weeks ago he sent the Gestapo in, and they grabbed 720 voting boxes, cases of votes, so they know where everybody voted. And so I'm just saying, because they dismissed the case here, he felt free to send his people in to grab all of the ballots, and because he already still swore that it was not fair, that it was not a free and fair election, even though his Republican governor and that Republican governor's Secretary of State said it was. So, and they recounted 3 times. So I'm just saying that our politics in the state is very different. But since he lost, he used the same kind of tactics that he's using out here. And in here, y'all don't hear about this, but the third most people in the country have been arrested here in Georgia by ICE. And about 40 miles from where I live, in a place called Social Circle, they have turned what was supposed to be an Amazon warehouse to a detention center, and it's going to house 5,000 people. So it's going to house more people than the town that it's in. And that town has a Republican congressman, and they sold the rug out from under them while they weren't looking. And the people there are highly outraged because the place is going to be right next to a school. So we don't get the same kind of pub, but the same kind of crazy stuff is happening here, even with the Republican governor. But the fact that he lost that state is kind of what the problem is here. So yeah, it's definitely about, slapping down people who oppose him or people who, he doesn't like. And we know he's very vengeful. And so that's what we're seeing.
Masada, what do you think, about this? I know, don't worry about by the end of the hour, I'll have you up to temperature, but I'll start you out with some.
You can let him ease into it. Is that what you're saying, We love you, brother. Do you? I think he's muted, James.
I think he might have muted.
All right. Before I answer that, you asked that question, I wanted to go to what he said about what's happening. I didn't know that's happening down there. They have places like that. That made me think of a place. I want to say it's in Montana, where the jail has way more people than the actual city or town itself. And it's like that's where they get all their labor and everything else from. And when I say that, I want to say because Montana, when you hear Montana, nobody thinks of how my picture looks in the background, how you look, how I look, how Brother James looks. But guess who's out there in that city and that jail mostly?
Yeah.
So.
That's right.
Yeah. Now, and consider the population ratio. How many brothers live in Bison, Oklahoma, or what's the capital of Pierpont, Montana? Isn't that the capital? I think it is something. One of those up in there. But it's
Montana State Trooper.
It's kind of funny that you mentioned that, because within the last decade, we've had a migration, I want to say, of certain types of militia and individuals to Idaho, Montana,
Iowa.
Places where that are rich in land, and you don't necessarily have to know who your next door neighbor is.
Probably don't want to know some of them.
Well, if you live there, I'm sure some of them will get to know you. But go ahead. Kind of talk because I think excuse me, where she spoke was Otay Mesa,
Mm.
and there's a determined camp out there.
There is.
People didn't know. Yes, there is. So, oh yeah, it might be one coming up in your neighborhood next. You never know.
Yeah. No. Oh, my neighborhood. Yeah, not my neighborhood. Listen, my neighborhood every other Sunday, they host lowriders all around the block, shut down the block with a whole bunch of lowriders and a lot of other stuff going on. I don't think they want to try to do that in this neighborhood. And you turn right, that's called you go right. They call that over there near Southeast, so they ain't trying to come over there either.
But Brother Derek, when you think of the swing, in politics, and how has it? I wanted to ask you the same question, I guess, that Masada asks every week. How did we get to this point where not only have we elected this man twice, but here's a man now, and when I first read it, I had to go back and read it again. But here's a man that supposedly in the Epstein files 1,000,000 times.
Mm.
Did you know 1,000,000 times? That's probably more periods than there are in your whole book, Brother Derek.
Wow.
I don't know.
I didn't know that. I knew he's in there 1,000 times, but 1,000,000 times, that's crazy. Because so sounds like he is the files. Doesn't sound like, right? If that's the case. I think, Brother James, and this is where I will agree with Masada. We let this happen. We let this happen in a very collective way. Congress let it happen. Us as voters let it happen. The Supreme Court let it happen. And now his power is unfettered, essentially. There's really not a limit to it because every time we think that he can't go any further, because now we have ships outside of Niger waiting to go in there. We've got ships outside of Cuba ready to go in there. We've got ships outside of Iran ready to go in there. And so we want it. We're going to take it. And, we're not even pretending. We used to be, at least we could pretend to be the good guys. And now, so what can we say about what Putin is doing over in Ukraine? Because we're just doing, and the same thing is happening domestically, right? I mean, I don't know if you all saw now that they're starting to come up with, for some reason or another, we're seeing this. We're not seeing it, but somebody is seeing the footage when ICE is doing what ICE is doing, and they just have showed that they said that this one guy assaulted them and they followed him in his house and beat him, and it said that wasn't what happened. And you saw the lady that they shot in the back 5 times, and they said she did something, and it showed she did not do that at all. And so that's the only reason they're backing off some. And look, like in Minneapolis, they're packing up for the most part and leaving because
now see that's a misconception too, because when I talked to Mr. Scott, they're pulling out 700, but they're leaving 2,000 behind. you
Yeah,
know,
and they're calling that de-escalation, right?
right, right.
But I think I don't know that, and I'm not saying I shouldn't say that they're totally leaving, but I think that the scrutiny is there because it's being exposed that what they're saying is happening is not what's happening. What it's saying, people are saying, they tell you don't believe your lying eyes, right? So we know what we're seeing, and what we're seeing is proven to be correct, and so they are at least de-escalating, and it's not a total win, but I think it's a step in the right direction. Um, yeah, so well,
So, Masada, what's your thinking here? Like I said, they pulled out 700, but they left 2,000, and they're going to take, and probably these 700 are going to another red city. I mean, excuse me, blue city, uh, because it's getting close to those midterms, and we've seen a turn as far as red and blue. We've seen some very interesting blue, but the thing that, because we're seeing blue, are we, and I'm talking about black and brown people here, are we seeing the progress, or are we still waiting for the crumbs?
Um, that's a 50-50. First, getting back to, I want to get the numbers because y'all were talking numbers. You said a
yeah.
million. You said you thought it was 1,000. Then you said 700 troops. To stick with Minnesota real quick, brother Derek, they pulled out also because Minnesota did something that they weren't expecting, and they hit them in their wallets, and they hit them in a place they didn't expect when everybody on that Friday did not come in or go to work or go to school. When there's that many people, you can win without violence as well. When there's that many people banding together, they didn't they don't want Minnesota to be a catalyst like it was with George Floyd again. So that's why they're pulling out 700 and leaving 2,000. They're not doing it for any other reason, but they fear, and they fear us coming together, which why sometimes I try to talk calm because I want to get the message to everybody coming through. With the Democratic blue cities and everything getting more troops and more ICE coming in, that's expected because Minnesota's showing the blueprint. Stick together, get together. It's been known. The blueprint's been known. Just like it's been known right now. I mean, it's a new phenomenon to people who are paying attention to ICE killing more than just black people now. When they're doing it to brown people, when they're doing it to white people, the narrative you just read and just said to me, all I was thinking in my head, brother Derek, is they've been doing that to us for years. They in the last like 8 years, they changed the narrative all the time. Hands up, he had a gun. Oh, we thought he was a grown man. Oh, look at his record. Look at this. Look what he was doing. They'll show you one thing. They show you Fernando Castillo. They with his daughter in the car. Oh, well, he was a threat. He had this. No, the dude was complying. Everything was all good. They've been doing that to us for years. I on Facebook, I have a homeboy I just saw. He black and Mexican, but he posted. He said, "Imagine you being hated so much that they hate you and want to kill you, but they like your culture, they like your food, they steal all your things." And he was like, "Fuck ICE," and I'm like, is everybody just now catching up to what they've been doing to us for years? And so now we have to talk like we've been doing for years about how everything they've done are doing it to everybody else. And now everybody's worried about it. Now everybody thinks America is a big bad criminal. America's been a big bad criminal. We've been doing things to Cuba. We've been doing things to Iraq. I remember I was a little kid confused at how we said they had weapons of mass destruction, and then they can get to come back on there and be like, when they found nothing. The numbers I wanted to talk about when I started, I want to talk about three black men. I don't care if you like them or not. Bill Cosby, Sean Combs, and Robert Kelly. are all in jail for something. I'm not even going to talk about these Epstein files, for something that this 47 whatever this whatever you want to call him, whatever he is to the American, whoever American people, because not me, I will never say that. He, and I'm not totally correct on this, but you can look it up. They're in jail for something that he admittedly paid off people to do, and then he's in the Epstein files, and we're gonna just sit back and be like, cool, and nobody's in an uproar. And so last week I thought about the conversation we had and how mad I was getting and all, and I asked myself this whole week, why do I get so mad? Why do I care so much? And I care so much because nobody else does, and I can't figure out how does nobody else care? How does no one else care? Because we shouldn't. This person, I don't even know if they have degrees. I don't care if they do. All I know is they have a criminal record longer than a lot of people I know in jail right now. And they do a lot of elf boy stuff. I'm gonna keep it PG today. They do a lot of elf boy stuff or bhakti boy stuff, and we are allowing that. So it's at this point, I'm still passionate about it, but I'm a lot more sad at all of us because Minnesota, I'm bringing it back, y'all. Minnesota is the blueprint of what we can do. Because yes, we are growing, and not just Democratic, awakening wise or conscious wise, brown, black people, just more conscious people in general, people who are really aware of what being human is and what being humane is. We are waking up more and seeing it more. And on top of that, they're bringing more forces in, because once you start seeing a little flame, you have to put that flame out or that little flicker out before it becomes that spark out before it could become something bigger. And I believe that's what they're trying to do. That's what he did when he first got in office. That's what he did his second time in office. He pardoned a lot of people, and then he scared a lot of other people in ways that I can't fathom, because what makes you so scared to not hold up to the oath you took to be a congressperson, to be a Supreme Court judge, so to be any type of leader and authoritarian that are supposed to be looking out for the people? We no longer have leaders that serve at all. And so, I won't rant that much tonight. That'll be the longest rant of the night, but we here.
Brother Derek, why does enforcement intensify during political instability?
Well, I believe that this president wants to invoke the Insurrection Act. I think he wants to crack down on us. He wants to be able to justify all the violence, all of the, he's saying, well, they're out of control, and we have to get them under control, because remember, the whole premise was we're going to arrest all these robbers and thieves, right? Well, they've got some robbers and thieves, but they got a whole lot of people who are over here paying taxes, working hard every day, good citizens, doing everything right. Because hell, if you could just come and get the American robbers and thieves and stay as busy as you wanted to be, right? So, I mean, it really isn't about that. It's about, I think part of it is about making America white again. And I agree with you 100%, Masada. It's, they've been doing this for us since, Jesus was a baby, right? Since they hauled us over here. But they hadn't been doing it to white people like this. And to do it to white women too. I mean, that's the sacred cow right there. Absolutely. But you know what that was about? He wanted to go back on the gold standard, and that they weren't having that. Oh, it comes down to money. That's why they killed Dr. King. Because
Cuba in the oil.
Let's stop the Vietnam War. Let's have the redistribution of the wealth. But so I think that there's a reason that his approval rating is at 33% now, and it's all time low, and I don't think that's going to deter him, because he's still going to look for a way to steal the election. I mean, we kind of know that the blueprint is out there, and like you said, who has the balls to step in and stop him and challenge him?
You say steal the election? The next 4 years he can't be elected, so he can't even be able to run. If I know politics, so there's no stealing. That would be something other.
He's not.
That would be something other. That wouldn't be stealing. That would be taking.
If he enforces this insurrection act, can he override that, brother?
Well,
I
suppose
might be.
because even in the midst of war, we've always had elections. Now, guess what though? How many things have always been that we're seeing being broken now? I can't anymore say I said for so long, well, that can't happen. That can't happen. But I don't know that I can say that anymore with any
That's why I'm
confidence.
mad though. I am mad because of that reason, because everybody's old argument used to be that's the way things were done. We can't
Yeah,
do this, we can't do
yeah,
this. We're gonna go by the rules. They always use the Constitution, they always use the amendments, they always use all kind of crazy, right? They use it, and then now all of that flies out the window. So
yeah,
where are all the good people saying,
yeah.
you know what, hold on, you're doing this wrong. We're going to do this the right way. And if y'all want to take it there, we're going to have to do it this way. And nobody's stepping up. Nobody is stepping up. Everybody's cowering out. I made a point. I was talking with somebody, and this is how I wanted to phrase it. They mentioned is it Al Green or someone, and they mentioned I forgot the other representative. They're doing a lot of good things, and I'm like, so why won't all of them just stand up and say, you know what, we're done with this. We're done with this. We're all going to be done with this. What's going to happen? He's showing you what he's going to do. He's already laid it out. Everybody keeps saying it ain't, but I think he had the plans. He threw it in everybody's face and said, "This is what we're going to do."
Well,
And what we're finding out, America is really white. They really want their whiteness.
He sowed the seeds in his first term when he took over the Supreme Court, and people were kind of let that, well, but when he set up the Supreme Court, and Brother Derek, you talk about the things that he's done against women, and shooting the lady in the face. I mean, he substantially took away the woman's right to govern their own body when when they overturned Roe versus Wade. And I don't care. I know it wasn't framed in this particular fashion, but it is a myth that there are more black and white people, black and brown people that have abortions than there are people of a lighter complected race.
Same with welfare.
Exact same thing with welfare and the SNAP benefits.
Yep.
It's all those poor brown people. It's like, we got immigrants are coming over here and flooding the voting machines. Come on, Brother Derek. I mean, really? I mean, what has made America so gullible in the last 12 years than they have been in since the Civil Rights Act?
I think that for one reason or another, he convinced a lot of people. He's one hell of a snake oil salesman. He convinced a lot of people that he was really for them, like the poor white people who are getting hurt worse than people in the urban areas because of them losing the SNAP benefits, them losing their health insurance. They thought he was for them, but we know he's not for them. And I think that, and like young people who voted for him overwhelmingly, honestly, now they are very much that's flipped totally. But I don't think that he really cares because he's got this bully pulpit for these 3 years, and he's going to make all the money he can. He's going to do everything that we allow him to do. And at this point in time, that's whatever he wants to do. And then we are just going to
what about all them farmers?
Absolutely. They're getting screwed. That's what's happening.
They're buying soybeans from Argentina and Brazil. I think Argentina is importing more beef to the United States than we're selling. How do you do that? When I go to the grocery store and I got okay. I'm going to show my age here, but I remember when hamburger was $1 a pound. Then it was $2.39. Then it was $3.95. Now I pay $6 for hamburger. $6 for hamburger.
So you don't believe him, James, when he tells you that this is the greatest economy we've had since however long, and all this is wonderful. So you don't believe that, right? You believe your checkbook. You believe
he can come live on my budget. I have no problem with that. If he thinks he can manage it, then that's good. But see, I just don't understand. I get like Masada. I don't understand how you get a second term when you went $3 trillion in debt on your first term.
Brother Zane, see, I was gonna be good and be quiet and let y'all keep talking like that. Y'all was like, yo, young people voted for him, black people voted for him, this voted for him. I'm really confused. Y'all gonna have to help me because I'm like, yo, I'm really simple minded. The first time I believe they said that we want him to win, we're gonna make him win because the popularity vote, like her or not, I believe Hillary won, but the United States of America, white men said we are not letting a white woman, a white person, a white person, right? A white woman, we're not letting a woman win and be a president. And so the second time come up, Biden on his bullshit, and I said I wasn't gonna cuss, but I have to say what Biden was on. He was on his bullshit. He could have dropped out. He could have not ran and gave her a better chance instead of dropping out at the end. He know his old ass wasn't gonna win. You fell on your bicycle. You fell just standing up. Nobody was voting for you just to stay there. And I'm not being disrespectful. I'm just telling you real facts. It sounds disrespectful, but just like the truth sounds always effed up. So when y'all say this time, how did we get him reelected when he was in trillions in debts, Brother James? We didn't. The system did what the system does. It ran who it wanted to run and did what it was supposed to do. There was no way he was supposed to be able to run. There was no way he was supposed to be able to run. And we've bypassed all these laws. Everything Brother Derek said earlier, he's witnessing like, oh, that can't possibly happen. I remember when he had to go down to Georgia. I remember him getting convicted. I remember him getting these, and he still was able to run. And whether people voted or not, the reason this second time happened was they remember the first time that he ran and they voted. And all those people, some people who had never voted before, women, young kids, wanted to vote for Hillary. You don't even gotta like her. She knows politics. They all corrupt, but she won, and by a landslide. It wasn't by a little minuscule amount. It was the people, the American people, said what they wanted, and then the American system gave us what they wanted to give us. And so it's no coincidence that he's in here. So please stop acting like, yo, it's a big surprise that they wanted that man to do what he's doing because they were too scared to do it themselves. That he is the perfect puppet for them. Nobody believes this dude is running around getting spray painted orange and shitting on himself and making these decisions. He's sitting. I'm serious. It's like a joke. I wonder often sometimes what people outside of America look at all Americans, and I'm like, they don't look at all Americans like that. But what is going on is like Cuba. We're taking oil from them, not giving them gas. Anytime I've seen any other country stand up and say, this is who we want to run it, America comes in and says, this is who we want to run it. So what are we talking about here still?
But, well, once again, it's like we've given control because, as you said, okay, Hillary won the popular election. She lost the electoral college. Pretty much the same thing here. But I think it has, America has gender phobia as far as, even though we have numerous countries that have had various women presidents, India,
Mexico now.
Yeah. And she's more educated than he is, but that's another.
She's sending Cuba aid and saying, "Help America, we're gonna send Cuba aid. Tariff us if you want."
Yeah, I mean, but
I respect her.
but Brother Derek, our political system. Now, you've been in close to 5 administrations, and you kind of watched the deterioration from the inside out. What do you? What was the first symptom that you saw?
Um, well, I say with this administration, because I mean, everybody sees it differently, but the animal that we had before, I recognize that animal. This animal is something we haven't seen in our lifetimes, and I think that the very first thing that they told our office to do when he was elected was to go and develop a relationship with ALEC. Now, ALEC is the group, that's the ultra conservative group. They're the ones that created the design Stand Your Ground. Remember, they allowed them to shoot Trayvon and say he was self-defense. All of these totally right-wing white anarchist policies are many of them are designed by ALEC. And so I just think that he is, the only thing he doesn't say is just call us nigger in our face. I mean, he thinks it, his policies. I don't know if y'all heard that, in fact, and most of the people, a lot of the people pushing back against him are traditional Republicans. And it's weird because they decided that in Philadelphia, that's where, of course, the first White House, well, or at least the first Capitol, was in Philadelphia, and Adams was in the House first, and then next it was Washington. Adams didn't have slaves. Washington had slaves. So he told the Department of the Interior to go into the National Monument there and strip away everything that had any reference to slavery. Well, the Republican judge just said, you got to put all that back because you can't make this decision. This is the decision that has to be made by the state. So I'm just saying that he is really wants to make this country white again. And why I say again, like in, I don't know if you all heard, in Medgar Evers in Jackson, Mississippi, remember Byron De La Beckwith lay in wait in the grass for him to come home. He pulled into his driveway. He shot him dead. His kids and wife pour out of the house, and he's bled to death. He told the Department of the Interior they cannot in that house have any literature that said he was shot and killed by a racist. They said, you got to take that out. So, I mean, come on now. You had to go back to George Wallace, and George Wallace only had power in Alabama. This guy got power in the whole country. So I'm just saying it's just a straight out assault on Black excellence, Black history. And it's the same thing with the brown people, right? And quite honestly, the next thing it'll be is the Asian folk. But the fact that he goes after, we haven't had a president, well, even it wasn't even the president. The closest thing I can think to this is Kent State and the Students for the Democratic Society when in Chicago. Remember when but they weren't killing them. They were brutalizing them.
Brother Derek, does anybody know where Obama's picture is?
We know where it's not, right? We know where it's not. I don't know.
What about
we talk about the picture of him as an ape, or the picture of his presidential portrait?
It's more likely. It's more likely that he would have the latter than the former.
That's right. That's right.
What about the bust of Martin Luther King that people used to see when they walked in there? What room is that? You know better than I do.
It's somewhere in the basement, covered, shrouded. Right.
You know. So I mean, it's no, the man has no, I mean, he if somebody shows you who they are,
Leave them.
I mean, he wants to take away was it the slave museum because slavery wasn't that bad.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, it taught you social skills.
Well, remember that. You remember that's what Ben Carson, the great surgeon. He's a great surgeon. But you
Yes.
know what he said? He said slavery was the first form of immigration, and
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
really a good thing. So
You
you know,
know, we got one out here. His name is Larry Elder, but Candace Owens. We got a couple out here. But
Yeah, I have to say a truth people might not like to hear. That last one you mentioned, she said some intelligent and truthful things that we need to listen to as well.
are you referring to Larry Elder? Who
No,
are
hell
you?
no. Candace Owens.
Candace
Okay.
Owens.
She said some stuff that we might not want to hear, but we should hear, and not all of it. I'm not giving her anything but that. Also, is how do you feel, brother Derek? I forgot to even ask you about Jesse Jackson today.
Oh, you know, um, that's a complicated
I
his
bet.
story and history. I mean, look, one thing my old boss Joseph Lowry used to say is that all men have feet of clay. So, these great men who have done really significant things, most of them have some level of a checkered history, right? Because that's just the nature of people. We are imperfect people. However, I remember that he went and negotiated and got a lot of prisoners out from places in the Far East and over in, I think, in Korea. He was the real architect of Operation Breadbasket. And that was when they pushed these, like in Chicago, you had these companies and they wouldn't hire black people to be managers. They wouldn't use black vendors, and so what you did, you withheld their business and their support. So they pressured these companies to do the right thing, and so they did a lot of really powerful things. Just the fact that he was the first black man to make a serious run for president, he did it twice, and so I think that he helped teach our young people. He said, I am somebody. Like he said, we're seeing this. They're doing all these replays of this. He said, I may be on welfare, but I am somebody. I may live in the ghetto, but I am somebody. I mean, I think he helped. It's almost like the Black Power movement. What do we want? Black Power. I think we had to, and Brother James will remember this. We're all about the same shade, but when me and Brother James were young, it wasn't they didn't like dark skin. Dark skinned people. That was my older cousins used to call me, and I was the youngest one trying to keep up with them. They used to call me Skillet. That was my nickname. And you can imagine what that did to my self-image because the girls, they didn't want no dark skin. That's flipped now. But
hey, Adam Clayton
it's still
Powell.
alive.
Adam Clayton Powell. Do you think that he could have got elected if he had been our shade?
Exactly. That wasn't
It's still alive.
And that's true. That's true. So I'm just saying that it's almost like to me, the most significant thing, perhaps, that Obama did. And like you said, if Obama looked like us, he wouldn't have been elected. He was elected largely because of the white part of who he is and the way he presented, the way he spoke, and all of that. But that's the reality of who America is. But I think that he gave us the image of black people in the White House. And of course, Trump was the backlash to that. He was the reaction of white America, because it's like that one. What did Mitch McConnell say? My number one goal is to make Obama a one-term president. He wasn't successful.
Yeah.
And Joe Wilson, the senator, the to me the racist. He's a congressman. I'm sorry, out of South Carolina, who stood up when Obama was making his speech and said, "You lie," and then he said, "It's the politically correct thing to be against the black man in the White House." So they just put it out there. No, this president, 45, 47, he just takes it to a whole nother level. He said, we just ain't having that. We ain't having black history. We ain't having no highlight of black excellence. We're not going to talk about slavery.
So you said it was something you never seen. So would you just say he's the cousin that actually shows you? So he's the one, he's America's real face, because you have two of them. You would have the one that'll sit there and talk to you and all that, and then they go behind your back and talk crap. And then you're from the South where I'm at. I'm from the South. I live in California, but I'm from Mississippi. I'm from Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana, all that, where they will tell you. And people were like, "You like that?" And I was like, "Yeah, because I know Jim Bob over there. Tell me, boy, I don't like you. Fuck you." And I'll tell him the same thing.
They'll be real with you. Yeah. You're not smile in your face and all the time. They want to take your place, right?
So are we, because we keep focusing on just one man, and we know that the American is a corporation, is a system, supposed to be a democracy. I can't even say it without laughing. A republic, but
Democratic Republic.
Both, but it is neither. It is neither. That's why I'm having a hard time even saying it, y'all. We know America is just a paid system. Since we know it's a paid system, it's finally showing who runs it. We talked about tonight women not having the rights. We talked about Hillary. We talked about Kamala, and then we talked about this chump being able to do everything he's doing and showing us how America really is. So I'm asking you all, is that America's real face, or are we just saying it wasn't? And I asked you the Jesse Jackson one because I knew it would be a hard one, because it's hard to see somebody doing so many good things, and you have to honor them for doing so many good things. And maybe they did one corrupt thing, or maybe they did an atrocious thing. And, when I hear about somebody being being able to be the first person to help Obama to be able to get in, I think what happens if MLK was alive, would he have not been one of the first ones to be able to run? Because he would have still been around this age, right? He should have still been around right here with Jesse Jackson, them, right?
Yeah.
So that's a lot to think about when I think about that. That's why I asked you that, because once again, with Obama or with anybody, with the Jesse Jackson, I honored the things that they did accomplish so that we can see that we can get in there. But sometimes I wonder, how do they get in there, or what happens when they're in there that makes them not be black? Because here's a funny thing about this chump right here. A lot of people say he's more Igorish than us, than Obama. When I say us, I'm saying Obama, and y'all know what I mean.
Yeah.
So just things that I think about.
Here's a problem that I have, because during the time of Jesse Jackson, when you're talking about Brother Derek, I was more closely associated with the Black Panthers, and I was partially incarcerated during that time, so I was a little bit more militant than that. But the thing that I want to know is, we are still pointing to Jesse Jackson, MLK, Al Sharpton. Where is the new blood at? And why haven't we developed that in the political scene, Brother Derek?
You're gonna throw me the hottest potato, huh?
Well,
that's a great question. I think that when I think particularly about Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, Medgar Evers, we could name a few. These people, quite honestly, were willing to die for the cause, for the advancement of our people. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, both of them died with nothing. They I mean, maybe you could say they could have and should have made more preparations for their family, but they really were in it for the people. There are a lot of leaders, big time leaders, who are quite wealthy. Now their wealth is relative, but I'm saying they didn't die with nothing, and they didn't know that their time was that they were probably going to die, but they were willing to sacrifice themselves to move people forward. And I don't know, and I'm not saying hell nobody wants to be a martyr, right? But I don't know how many people today, and that's the thing about Renee.
Well, we got martyrs, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd.
We do.
But you know what? But let's think about it. Making more every day.
But let's think about it. Breonna Taylor wasn't. I'm saying she was killed, but she wasn't standing up for something. They just broke in and gangstered her. It's different. It's different than you going out there and you gonna be a target. That's a different story, I think.
The reason
didn't know he was going to be a target. He had a toy gun.
I agree, but he was murdered straight up and down, but he wasn't. It wasn't he was trying to be some righteous person. I'm just saying there's a distinction there. I just don't. I don't know. I think that
none of them. I'll answer it. The reason I can answer none of them, because I think of this. What would MLK be alive today if Obama got elected? What would his conversation be with Obama of what he would tell Obama what Obama should do or need to do for the people? Because he had the most power out of any black man ever. Correct? Am I? Because we can say Malcolm Martin, Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, all these, whoever we want to say. The person who had the most power out of all black men in history we celebrated is the number 44, right?
He had a lot of juice.
I understand. Listen, I understand he couldn't do anything because the real power doesn't lie there, and that's what I'm getting at. Listen, no, hold on. Let me finish this. I teach chess. I don't play it. I be BSing with y'all when I ask stuff like that. I do that to make you all think and be like, well, he don't have all that power, and I'm like, so the president doesn't have all that power. Then who does? So then Trump doesn't have all that power. Then who's really running it? Because if MLK sat with Obama, what would he want him to do? And why hasn't nobody else did it?
But there's a difference between having power and usurping power. And Trump has usurped a lot of power. He's just taken it. He hasn't.
He's a gangster. He's a gangster.
Whereas Obama was the nice guy, because Obama should have put a judge in there before he left. Obama he did a lot of bending over that he shouldn't have done, and I don't know if they gave him any grease or not, but
But see, the argument y'all use with Obama, y'all said Mitch McConnell, which I've been next to that creep. Like I sat next to him, ate right behind him, and wanted to throw up. He looked like he should have been died a long time ago. But y'all say that him and all the Republicans and other people were fighting against Obama, right? So bad that he couldn't get a lot of stuff done. So my question is, when we strictly talking politics now, if Obama didn't have power, because being president doesn't give you power, and of course you got the Supreme Court and you got Congress and they have, I'm blanking out, but what I'm trying to say is they have all that power to stop Obama. And I know it's more Republicans in there now than it is Democrats. But why aren't the Democrats fighting just as hard as all the racists were fighting just as hard against Obama? Where are they at?
I think the Democrats are fighting, but they don't. It's like you're bringing a knife to a gunfight, because you have. Trump has put his own personal judges in the Supreme Court. He's made sure that he controls all of the money, and he makes sure that his party stands behind him no matter what.
I don't think he's making that. I think his party just want to do that, and they're hiding behind him, because if you don't want to stand behind him, you don't have to.
No, you don't have to. But then again, Here's a man that, and you and I both know, being in the military, here's a man that has declared war on 4 countries, 3 of them that don't even have an army.
We always do that.
You know,
We
but
always do that.
but even under Obama, we had to give money back to Iran. I've never seen any president do that. What about you, brother Derek?
Obama deported so many people and did other things too. I don't
Oh
want to talk.
yeah.
I don't
But
want
the thing of it is, see, Obama did it in a lawful manner. He didn't have ICE running through the streets. He didn't have these different.
But we keep saying it's Trump. He was a Democrat, then he went to Republican, and
Yes,
everybody backs him
yes.
because of the money. That's all it is. So it's not him. It's the weak
I think they backed him, as Brother Derek said earlier, as a backlash to Obama.
Oh, we know that. There's no thought. We know that.
So I understood. I kind of understood the first term, because I think any white man that they ran against Obama, against Hillary, would have won, because once again, I don't think that America will, in my lifetime, put a woman in as president. But also, there are things, and you've seen it, I've seen it, and you've mentioned it so many times, and it should be a national outcry. How can this man do so many things that it's like Star Trek. He's gone where no other man has gone before.
Yeah, he will do things. So Obama, and I great respect for a lot that he did, but he played nice. Okay, he wasn't going to take the gloves off and just say, "Well, I'm going to be a gangster." He didn't feel like he could do that, and some people say, "Well, if I did that, it would never be another black president." I don't know, but yeah, he didn't think he could do that. He should have pushed through that Supreme Court justice.
He didn't want to be the end in the White House.
He had 8 years. If Malcolm or Martin would have sat with him, those last 2 years, the last 1 year, when we asked that question, you asked that question, Brother James, and I say 0. There are no martyrs today, because Brother Derek said it. Nobody wants to put their skin in the game. Everybody's too comfortable. And that's my point when I say with the Democrats. If y'all ever hear me, Democratic people, the Congress, the House, everybody, representatives, y'all know what it is. Even the Republicans, they know. It's not that he's bullying everybody. He played to everybody's fear, from the old white people to the poor white people. He played to their fears and played to what they really want to see again. When we say make America white again, we mean go back to the days where if you were white, you can buy a house, or you would get a house given to you, while if you were black, you couldn't buy one. So with all that, once again, it's not just Trump. And that's the point I be trying to make, or I be making, when I be focusing on, hey, y'all, why didn't Obama do this? Oh, because the House and everybody was against him. So then why aren't Democrats really putting their foot down?
Hold on, brother. We got somebody in here that I've been trying to get in for a long time. And this is Mr. Scott. Mr. Scott lives in Minneapolis. I've done a few shows with him, my sports, as well as some other things. But the one problem that I have with Mr. Scott is Mr. Scott always comes on the sports show and wants to talk about ICE. But Mr. Scott, where you at?
Well, James, I got a new computer here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
But you can't. I don't know what this red thing is here. I don't know how to. This whole computer thing has just ruined my whole day. Trying to get this stuff together. I'm telling you, why they do this? You just want one thing, and you got to do 10 things to do one thing. These people. But yeah, this Minneapolis thing, man, I'm telling you.
Now,
really something.
hold on, Mr. Scott. Let,
Sure.
let, let me let me give him a little background here because
Well, let me see if
Mr.
I can get a
Scott
picture
lives
going.
right down the street from the George Floyd corner here. He has to walk through these these ice barriers or whatever you want to call them in order for him to just do his normal business.
Please
So,
don't
Mr.
move.
Scott, tell us about what's going on up there. And you know, like I was trying to give a little background, but tell us what's really happening.
Well, apparently they sent ICE up here, what they were saying, because of the Somali fraud. See, the Somalis, and they've been running a game. Boy, they've been running a real good game, getting millions of dollars with fake daycares and autism. And the thing with me, autism. I mean, they're not no doctors. What do they know about autism? So it comes down to, why are people giving them all this money? With no oversight or nothing. But then ICE supposedly comes here under that premise. But now 2 white folks then got shot by ICE. See, so this whole game, this whole deck, from what I see, has been changed. And I'm telling you, they have been running around through this city. They had 3,000 of these ICE here. We have 500 police in the city. 500 police in the city. And then they're just, you see cars, man, just speeding around, no license plates, darkened thing, all the windows all darked out. And then I've actually gone by a gas station in my neighborhood where the ICE guys, and that's when they had that other guy, that kind of Barney Fife looking guy. I thought he was so tough, Bavino, whatever his name was. They were all at the gas stations, just getting some cigarettes or some pop or snacks. And man, the people saw them and they ran them out of there and they started tear gassing them. And it's a wonder nobody got shot there, because that was, they say it's ratcheting down this original premise of fraud. It just seems to be, they don't even talk about that now. And my buddy lives in Houston. He said that there is more Mexicans in Texas than there are in Mexico. So what if this was what they were going to do? But see, their economy is not going to allow all that down there. See, that economy is not going to have that. So this is a real false narrative, and we have just a dangerous, awful guy as a president, just an incompetent fool that we have as a president. And it all stems from there. So I don't know I'm sure you gentlemen have a take from what you see from afar here in Minneapolis, but right here, it's ground zero for some reason. I mean, it is. Why here? And it's almost like he's attacking Democrats, trying to attack a Democratic. Well, you're hurting. And what really made him look bad, see, I was a supervisor for the child protection in Hennepin County. I worked with Amy Klobuchar when she was the attorney general for the county, Hennepin County. I worked with these people. When they took that little kid and took him and a dad, that stems from, they don't want to work with the police. They don't want to work with our social services. They don't. I mean, if that child had a mother. So if the dad, okay, well, if he's got to deal with some legal stuff, let the child go to the mother. But I think the mother was afraid because they thought they may throw her in the police car. But there's relatives. There's a process that you can do that. And what they did with that kid really made them look bad. It really made them look bad.
Now, Mr. Scott, tell us a little bit about the big rally, and that was in the snow. I mean, people were out there in the snow protesting.
It wasn't just snow. It's 15, 20 below zero and wind chill. But they were out there. I mean, that was an amazing thing. really see the pushback. And I know they didn't expect that. They did not expect that. And the pushback or kind of put them on their heels. And then they go ahead and kill the nurse, the man nurse, Mr. Pretty. I mean, that was just so. I mean, those are just, I'm
Veteran
gonna say
too.
it, they're just punk ass moves to do shit like that. That is really just to go ahead and kill somebody like that. They're unarmed. That's murder.
All right, y'all guys, come on now. I brought you a Minneapolis resident. You can.
I'm gonna let Brother Derek talk with him because he'll have the more intellectual questions. I'm just, I hear 15 minus below chills and cold, and I'm proud of Minnesota. I'm proud of you all. That's all I want to say is I am very proud of what y'all did.
You muted, Brother Derek.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. Minneapolis is
There you go, Mr. Scott.
the leading force of the resistance. And one of the things that Masada just said, we've always seen that the experience of Black and lesser to brown people here in this country, but you executed an ideal, noble citizen, a white guy that they lied on a bunch of the nurse said he had a weapon. He did this. He was being aggressive. So that, the picture shows the truth. And so they don't care. And when you get to the place where you will execute white people, now they've always executed us and Black people but this is white people, model citizens in this country. And so, but I think he wants to be able to execute the Insurrection Act, and he wants to lock down this country and just do whatever the hell he wants to. And Amy Klobuchar, who I like Amy Klobuchar, but the reality of it is she says that this isn't who we are. This is exactly who we are under this particular administration because, we just haven't, he tranched the line. He's taken us to places we never had thought we were going to, all the way back to the 60s and before. And so I think that he's going to continue to do what he's done until somebody stops him. And Minneapolis at least made him back up. But it's not over because he's just going to find another way to keep pushing the envelope, pushing the needle until I don't know when it's going to stop.
Now, Mr. Scott did make a point there. He asked, why do you think Minnesota is a testing ground?
I believe it's that because of what he talked about with all the Somalian power. It was from what I understand, and this comes from you, Brother James, and some research on it. They're one of the main. They're in their state. That's one of the main places where we have the most power. When I say we, people of color have the most power in the political game. Correct?
Somalis. Yeah.
I'm just saying for skin. I'm saying for skin tone. I'm not saying for. Okay. I'm saying other than white people. If you want me to be blunt, other than Caucasian American white people, that's who had correct. So if I was in war and I was looking at that, and I'm a white man, because I'm getting orders from my great grandfather to take them back. Boy, y'all don't let this country get slipped into something different. I'm gonna go out to where they have the most power because that's what happens there. That whole state can become super blue. That whole place can do. Minnesota is the blueprint right now. And I keep telling everybody, watch it. It's the blueprint. They didn't just pull back because of all of that. They pulled back because their money, their economic system, they pulled back because the people were getting together. They pulled back because they did F up when they killed the white woman or the fair-skinned Mexican woman or the white guy and all of the nurse. And that's why it's Minnesota. That's the only reason. I can't think of any other state that has more political power for persons of color.
Yeah, to be able to focus on the Somalis, because it's like calling the Latinos rapists and thieves. He said they don't have no business being over here. They're grifting. They're taking all this money. They're doing this and that. And I bet you find 5-7% of graft in the people that are really doing the wrong thing with the money. Hell, you can look at the wrong thing. Everybody doing the wrong thing. White people, black people.
The two people that went to jail were white, though, weren't they, Mr. Scott?
Well, they claim now they say that they've arrested thousands of people, that they have done all of this. Well, I haven't seen that. I don't know that that's a true statement. And see, the Somali dynamic, it's really an interesting dynamic here because they're making inroads, and the thing is, some of the inroads is like looking from the outside in. It's kind of like, why are you giving them all of this money? How is this? What, and they're supposedly doing daycares. There's a daycare that's about around the corner from me. Me and my son drive by there every day. My son lives a few blocks from me. We've never seen a car there. Never seen a car. But after this guy come out with this little movie about daycare, there's cars there every day now. There's cars every day. So, I mean, they are somehow, I don't know what the relationship is with, the Somalis. They've been able to really bulldog, here they have a lot of the mosques. They demand that they can, have prayer and that, but they don't all believe that. That's like any religion. Well, everybody doesn't believe that they're going to be devout religious people. They're not all. They're out here carjacking people. They're out here doing some of the same stuff. So it's just an interesting dynamic how, you get an Ilhan Omar with all this background stuff of, even maybe coming here illegal, marrying her brother, and then now with this white guy who a month before she had hired the white guy to do her finance, or he was like a political guy collecting money for her. Okay. And so they were saying all this money's going to him. And she said she didn't know him. She got on TV and said, this is a business. I don't know him. A month later, she's married to him. A month later, she's married to him. So, their level of nefarious activity, I think it's organized, and I think they've been able to figure a way to, and they've taken a lot of this money already out of here. They're never going to get this money back. I mean, this money's then gone over to Nigeria and Kenya, and and they will put on TV the people that work at TSA at the airport, that Somalis have come there with suitcases full of money. And the people look at it and they don't say anything about it. So there's more to this than meets the eye. That's all I can say. There's more to it than meets the eye. I mean, we have a long time Jewish community here, St. Louis Park, a city. They elected a young girl, Somali, as the mayor. How does this happen? I mean, I just it's very difficult to put your head around this. And then Keith Ellison, now he's in the fire because they have videos and things of him meeting with the Somalis and telling them, "Oh, we're going to take care of this. They're not giving you the money. We're going to stop them from harassing you." Getting contributions. The mayor getting contributions.
That was another thing that I wanted to ask you about.
Yeah.
The conflict between, because you guys have always had a thing about Mayor Fry and his view on law enforcement. In fact, I think your former police chief is now the police chief in LA, I think, somewhere out here in California.
If he is, I don't think he's a police chief. He was supposed to be. They wanted him in San Jose, but I don't think he didn't go. Okay. He didn't go.
So what about the conflict now between Mayor Fry and ICE and Governor Walz?
Okay. Well, I'll go back a little bit before that. There was a Somali that went against Fry to be mayor of Minneapolis. Okay. He knocked out a longtime brother from this neighborhood that was on the state Senate. And Somali knocked him out. Somali thought he was so bad, he was going to run for Minneapolis mayor. They went to the convention, the Democratic convention, and they endorsed him. He was endorsed. And then Fry, and then people said, no, this is a farce because all these votes and all this stuff is we don't know where they're coming from. So they took away the endorsement. And then what Fry did, see, the Somalis, they have a clan mentality. And see, they brought all that over here. And they got rival type clans. And some of them supported Omar Fattah to be mayor. And then what Fry did is he learned Somali and went to the Somali things, and he was dancing with the Somalis and he was speaking Somali. So he was able to split their vote. And he got a lot of the votes from Somalis from the other clan. And that's how he won. So as far as him in ICE, just think if Omar Fattah had been mayor, and it was a very close race. Just think if a Somali had been mayor during all of this. Just think about that. It was this close to that happening. And this whole thing of not cooperating with, you're not going to cooperate from a certain standpoint, but there has to be some law and order. There has to be, you cannot, they're acting like slave catchers, basically. This is what they're acting like. They picked up a Mexican guy and they rammed his car and everything because he was suspected of being an illegal. Suspected. See, that's just a slave catcher type bullshit.
Mr. Scott, we seen it got on your nerve tonight.
Yeah, all this computer foolishness and all this stuff. I'm telling you, it's just,
Yeah, I wanted my brothers to hear about it because I keep telling them about what's happening up there, and no better than to hear it from somebody that actually lives there. Now, can you kind of tell us, because I know that it seems like there was one atmosphere when we were talking about George Floyd and the memorial and all of that, but now it seems like there's a whole different atmosphere as far as this ICE situation. It seems like you're more united against ICE than you are divided against George Floyd.
Well, just observing, I think the Floyd situation, I believe, there was a lot of people that came up here to try to benefit from that. See, I don't believe that this was all the Minneapolis people, the neighbors that was going into Target. They went into Target and took the safe out. They went in and got the safe out of the Target store. Not only that, but across the street was the police station that they burned down. They ran the police out of the station. And the police was trying to because police have all kinds of serious weapons in these stations. So they had to run out and try to get those weapons out of there and get the hell out of Dodge. So that was a whole different thing with the George Floyd thing. I think it was really, there were people here I saw all kind of license plates, all kind of people driving wrong ways on streets that if you're from here, these streets been one way several for years. You were not going to be driving up there. So, but this one, I think people have just kind of had enough of all of this stuff. And they've kind of just said, we just don't want any more of this in this city. And but I'm thankful that this all happened in 20 below zero, because if this had been in the summertime again, like the George Floyd thing, I really don't know. But and they have left the George Floyd site. Oh, it's just terrible over there. People are just hanging out, building fires, and there's that store on the corner where George Floyd went into. That's been problematic for years. That's problematic for years. It was all kind of stuff going on there, and they have the nerve to call the police because the man they said had a $20 bill. I mean, that whole thing, the way and when you watch the film of it, when that officer, he walks in the store and the guy said, "Oh yeah, there he is. That guy had a $20 bill," and the police walk over there, bound on George's door and say, "Get out of here, get out of here." And George said, wait, what did I do? What? They didn't treat him like a person. They didn't treat him. They started cussing at him, dragged him out of the car. I mean, a $20 bill that was fake, supposedly. So that was a whole different thing because everybody saw that. When that girl Daniela Fraser filmed that, I saw it on Facebook. I happened to be on there and seeing it live. And I said, man, they killed that man right there in front of everybody. So that in this one, I think the people have just kind of had enough. I mean, of this kind of thing, and they're just willing to come out in 20 below zero weather and boy, deal with that. And they went to the hotel downtown where ICE was staying, and they went in the hotels and tried to roust them out of there. It's but it's could have been a lot more dangerous this time. I mean, two people died unnecessarily, and they should be held accountable for those murders. And that's what pisses people off too, because when they killed the girl right away, they said, "Well, that's fine. That's he didn't do. That's not anything." And that was just a pure murder. She was just talking to the guy and drove off, and she shot him. Shot her in the head.
Yeah, 3 times in the face. Hey, So, but guys, like I said, I brought Mr. Scotty. If you guys got any questions, anything that you want to ask him, observations.
Yeah, I had a question or two, and it's always good to hear somebody who lives in an area and you see things that we probably wouldn't have. You mentioned the slave patrol, and the same thing happened here. And that wasn't in downtown, but down near Savannah, where Ahmaud Arbery, it was like the slave patrol that they sent after him and executed him and tracked him down. So yeah, those things still happen. This is my question. I'm curious as to why you believe that there is such fervent support for a good bit of the white community in support of the Somali community there in Minneapolis, because they put it all on the line, a lot of them, and they risk life and limb for them. So how would you say that? Why is that happening like that? Why are they so fervent and committed to being protective and supportive of their neighbors?
Well, that's what I have really tried to figure out. And there's a faction of people here that I, work and talk with, and they say, well, that's because they're all in on it. I mean, they say that that's because that they've gotten some of the ill-gotten gains, that they are getting some votes, that they're getting things they're getting something out of this. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of, because they never, and even the Somalis, like Ilhan Omar, the mayor, there's a guy that runs a place called CARE, this Jelani Hussein, who jumps up all the time. They talk about a lot of things that are being done to them, but they don't condemn the stuff that the crooked Somalis are doing. They don't condemn it at all. They continue to say that they're just being scapegoated. They don't talk about the fact that there's billions of dollars the Feeding Our Future thing was the biggest COVID scam thing in the country, but they don't say. So that's the part that's a very good observation, because that's a $1 million question for all of us here. I mean, they should be accountable just like anybody else would be. And there is a guy on the Minneapolis City Council. Okay, now the guy that was on the Somali that was on there before him is head of the Minneapolis Housing Authority, and they're in all the low-income housing. Somalis are all in there. Now Section 8, my wife used to work at the Section 8 office, and people would have to wait years to get one of them vouchers. They'd have to wait years, and they're filling up all of them. And so when he left the city council to be head of the housing authority, he put his buddy in, another Somali, on the city council. This one, his wife and him had one of the Feeding Our Future businesses. But now, since he got the word that the heat was coming, he claimed he got out of it, And so Ellison shut down her business and just said, well, we're just going to shut it down. No, didn't do any punishment or anything, charging her about Feeding Our Future. He said, well, this business, we're just going to shut it down. So there is something there, and I can't put my hand on it. I'm not that close to that.
Mr. Scott, tell these gentlemen a little bit about yourself, about your book, and your background a little bit here.
Well, just basically,
I don't want them to think I'm just bringing anybody over here. Come on.
Well, I'm not all that. Believe me. I'm still trying to pay my bills like everybody else. But, I've been here all my life. My dad wrote books on the Twin Cities Black community, 50s, 60s, and 70s. And it's now been released as an anthology of all those books in one, 500 pages. And so from that, we were able to put together a nonprofit. We did a new book updating the work that he did, where we got a national award for that. We've just completed a documentary on some of the, positive things in the Black community here people may not know about. And there's some of my good friends are in the video, some people that I just met, people like Steve Winfield, his brother Dave. I'm sure if you know baseball at all, you've probably heard of Dave Winfield. And so he's been in it. Some of my good friend Gary Hines, who I was in the Sounds of Blackness actually when they started. I played bass. And Gary Hines, he's in the video. He's still running good and hard with the Sounds of Blackness. And we, in the documentary, we just talk about the city and how a lot of us came from other areas, and they came with a purpose at that time, to brave all this cold weather, to get here, to live in this icebox. My mom came up from Talladega and Birmingham, Alabama, and I asked her, why you bring us up to this icebox? It would have been better to stay down there, And I said, well, it was getting out, and so we got out too, we came. But they all came with a purpose, and all of us, I'm reading this book called The Warmth of Other Suns. And that book is so interesting because it talks about the Great Migration and how many people, for example, a lot of people in Louisiana went to Oakland, California. And they kind of went as a group to a lot of different places. And our group, came from Talladega, Birmingham. And some of them stopped, like my grandfather says, some stopped in St. Louis, some went to Cleveland, some went to Chicago. His sister went to Detroit. And he said, I just stayed on the train and kept going. He said, I'm just going to keep riding. And so, but it was a different kind of a mentality. I mean, when I read that book, I'm so proud of all, our ancestors and people that were able to, redlining, all these things that were done to keep us down. I go to Detroit and see my sister. She's a doctor at Oakland University in Michigan. And so she lives in a place called Southfield. I don't know if you're familiar with Detroit. But when we were kids, my grandfather lived in Detroit. When he got out of the service, he worked for Chrysler. He was a supervisor at Chrysler line. And so we would never go to that area, that. And they actually have, like, that rapper put out a song, 8 Mile.
Yeah.
There is actually a fence. It's a concrete thing that covers this whole thing. And on the other side is the black folks, and on the other side, and there's a part of that when I was in Detroit. We were in a certain area, really nice. We were going to a concert or something. We got kind of lost, and we went across a bridge, and we were in a place called Westland. And all of a sudden, when we got there, none of the grass was mowed on the sidewalks. Everything was unkept. Trash was everywhere, just like across the street. So, I mean, these kind of things, with our books and with our things, I think it's important that somehow we keep that spirit. Somehow we keep that and realize that our resilience is what's got us this far. And if we can't keep it, we're not going to get any farther.
All right, guys. Well, let's Masada, you want to give us your final thoughts for the evening, and anything you want to share with Mr. Scott? See you, Mr. Scott. Tuesday. We're moving back to Monday, so I'm going to keep sending you these links, and sooner or later you'll come down here and talk with us brothers instead of trying to talk. Anyway. Yeah. But Masada, you got the floor here.
Yeah, no, this week is come again. I thank you for coming on here, Mr. Scott. I wrote down that book. I would love to know the books y'all have, because I love to learn more knowledge. The fight that's out there, that's here, that's everywhere, is all of our fight. So thank you for keeping it up. Thank you for being here and talking with us. Come over here more or something though, and really get into it to where we can talk about some things, because I want to know later on about the Somalian community and how they are with us, because I kept hearing a distinction between the black community and the Somalian community, and for me that kind of hurts my heart, because it always hurts my heart when Africans or Americans, black Americans, say we're black and they say they're African and all that. When you say your ancestors, my ancestors, our ancestors, I honor and love everybody that look like us, because I know they go through it as well. But also at the same time, I know that if some of us get to a certain place, that's why we had the house and that's why we had the field. And I'll rather be part of the field all day. But somehow the house and the field have to come together, so we're one. So please come back and let's talk some more to the rest of the world, people watching out there, people who are going to watch. All I ever preach on or have my little sermons on, if you take them that way, is unity. I do say black unity first, because you always got to figure out who you are and where you come from and know what we are. I'm tired of being resilient. I love being resilient. I'm tired of being resilient. I want to be comfortable enough to where we're all living good and being respected as we should, because the narrative I heard with the people in Minnesota that's white, or the people I'm hearing now that ICE are doing to it with the Mexicans, it has been done to us for years and years. Mr. Scott, I'm originally from Mississippi, so trust me, I know a lot of history. I live in San Diego, California, but I know a lot of history, and so I really love us. I don't like our narrative. I want us to rewrite our own narrative, and I want this nation to be a nation for everyone, because it's never been for everyone. So that's all I want. Peace, light, and love to everybody. Thank you, Brother Derek, for joining us. Thank you, Brother James, for putting me around this amount of not only educated but humble and respectful brothers. This is something good. I feel like it's a good place and a good space, and we can grow from this. So thank everybody for listening, and Brother Derek or someone else can take the floor.
Brother Derek, your final thoughts for the evening.
Well, I am glad you came, and you definitely gave us a different perspective. I would like to hear some real empirical evidence in terms of why the people, particularly seemingly everyday white people in Minneapolis, are so profoundly defiant and supportive of the Somali community. It's hard for me to believe they're all getting bought off. And maybe that's the independent spirit of the people, partly in Minneapolis. But I love to. It's always good to hear different perspective, because some of that I had not heard or been exposed to. But I think that I have much love and respect, because when the needle gets moved in this country, it's when white people are willing to put that kind of skin in the game that we put in this game for 400 years. But that was a given. But when white people who are strong, respectable, and honorable are willing to die for other people, that's a real statement. And so big ups to Minneapolis, and all of us have to continue to remember that freedom isn't free, never has been, never will be. And so let's just keep pushing, and hopefully the commitment that the people in the Minneapolis area have shown and made is a model for all of us. And not that we need people to continue to die for this cause, but I'm glad that they've been willing to do what they've done. And I think it's shaken up this country. Not enough Masada yet, but it is making a difference, and people are pushing back. And it gives you hope. It's a starting point. It's not the ending point, but it's a starting point. And when this country and this leader is willing to just sacrifice all these women.
Did you say leader? Who were you talking about right now? You just lost me.
I'm just the person that's 45, 47.
Oh, okay. Please don't use no title like. Dude, please don't say leader.
I didn't state that title with it.
I think former President Obama just referred to it as a clown show.
It is that. I 100%. I will not dispute that at all.
It wasn't so serious.
Brother Derek also has a book, Mr. Scott. You can see that. I don't know if you can see it up there, but
okay.
Tell him what the name of your book there.
Yeah, you can see it, Masada. The longest 4 years of my life.
Yeah.
In the field by Black Fed in the Trump administration, and because I have worked for the last 5 presidents for political appointees in each administration, starting with Clinton through the first 2 years of Biden. I do think I'm fairly qualified to make comparisons. And prior to that, I worked for Dr. King's organization. And my first book is about the people that committed and sacrificed and gave so much towards the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 64. And the Voting Rights Act of 65. So I think there's a real through line to what we sacrificed and what we invested to what's now being clawed back and taken away from us. And so, there's a lot at stake here, and we just have to stay vigilant. But I'm glad you were able to join us today.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. It was my pleasure. And I've been meeting you guys, and like you say, different perspectives, and kind of, we're here with all the stuff going around. It's kind of nice to hear from people that, what's their perception of really what is going on there. What are they? I had a chance to go to St. Louis years ago, and this was right about at the time of Michael Brown. I was there, and I went to the protests. I went to and it was an interesting thing, because there was a protest right across the street from the police station there, where the fire department and the police are right across the street. And they were just looking out the window at the crowd. They didn't even come out. They were just peeping out the window. But the crowd, I was talking to a lot of the people, white people, and a lot of them were students. A lot of them were like law students from Eastern schools. It was just very interesting that a group of people that come to kind of just see what is really going on out here. That part really threw me when I went there, and I went back to St. Louis, maybe a couple of years ago, and where they had devastated the area. That was like, it was a smaller area in Ferguson, but it was all gone. it was all, the girl that was taking me around was so upset. She said, "Why'd they burn down the best rib joint in St. Louis?" And the whole, it was just burn everything. But when I went back, when she took me back there, and you would have never known all this stuff was tore up. Now, not to say that we can put that down, but I think somehow we have to use these things to keep strengthening us to like the 38th in Chicago is worse than it was, the same. It's just continuing to just languish, and the neighbors, the police don't go through there, your public transportation doesn't go through there. If you want to go to work, if you want to, your routine is all messed up. I mean, somehow these things we have to say, and I think it's a good start here when we see that how people are banding together to stick together and to show that we've pretty much had enough of this stuff, and that the generation, hopefully for the kids, the young kids, boy, this is what it's all about. And we have to be that example. So yeah, I was glad to be able to join you guys, and hope we can continue this discussion.
Yes, sir. Well, everybody have a good night, and I know I kept you guys a little longer than I usually do, but we enjoyed having you, Mr. Scott, and hopefully I'll keep sending you a link and you'll keep joining us. So have a great night, everyone, and we'll talk to you next week.
Well, thanks a lot. I'll be looking for that book too. I wrote it down.